Hi everybody, I'm Tim from troutandfeather.com, and thanks for viewing this YouTube fly tying tutorial on ways to organize your dubbing. Over the last couple of years, I've received a lot of emails in regard to the way that I organize my fly tying materials. Every time I reply, I laugh a little bit and kind of peek over my shoulder to make sure my wife isn't reading the email because I'm afraid that I know exactly what she'll say. And it's something along the lines of, Tim, have your viewers looked behind you on all of your recordings and seen exactly what your system looks like on your fly tying desk? And I know the answer, you probably have, but I can assure you I have a fly tying organizational system that has worked for me over the years for a couple areas of my fly tying. Now my wife and I right now are going through a move and we're in the process of building a new home, and it's really given me an opportunity to look over the system that I have and figure out which systems I want to keep and which ones I want to kind of move away from and find something new that's going to work to help me be more successful at organizing everything. The one I'm going to share with you today relates to dubbing, and it's because I've had a lot of success with it over the years. I want to preface this with the fact that I'm a public school teacher, and every year at the beginning of the year, once I meet my new group of students, I go over an organizational system that I believe they'll have success with. But I can be guaranteed that, within the first month of school, not every student is going to experience success with that system. Thus, we have to find something else that works for them. And it's the same with the organization of our fly tying materials. The system that works for me may not work for you, and I absolutely encourage you to share any of your own thoughts or suggestions in the comments below this video. So for starters, let me go over some of the systems that I have seen others kind of utilize over the years. Some have worked for them, some have not, and they've changed to other systems. Without a doubt, the most common system that I see being used are these Sterilite containers. My Uncle John uses these, not necessarily this size. I believe the size that he uses is more like a shoebox. And in each container, he places his packs of dubbing, and on the front he labels them as to what that, we'll say, brand is or that type of material is. Now there's upsides and downsides. Without a doubt, the upside is they're very easily organized, it's very clear, it's easy to read, and you can quickly find that material. The downside is you may only have 4 or 5 dubbing packets of that set material, thus you're taking up a lot of space for a material that you may not use on a regular basis. So again, upsides, downsides, I've used this type of a system in the past, but because it just takes up so much space and there's not a perfect size to match my materials, I've kind of opted away from it. Another positive, these containers can be really cheap. I bought this one at Trader Horn for a little bit over $1. So keep that in mind. The next one that I know a lot of fly tyers use, especially for traveling purposes, is to get some type of plastic container. And I don't have any because I don't use that system, but it'd be similar to this, and it's kind of a stackable container. Once they purchase their dubbing packs, they take all the material out of the pack and push them into these plastic containers. They're not taking up a lot of space. They can easily find them, and they can easily pull from there. Sometimes I see a lot of individuals will drill holes into the container and the materials will be poking out, and they can just pull the material on an as-needed basis. For me, that system has never really worked. I've never really, I guess, felt comfortable writing on the containers with a Sharpie. Thus, I just looked at it as it was kind of difficult for me to figure out exactly what was in that container. Plus, I like to look at the original packaging to kind of ensure that I have possibly all the colors, or just to make sure that I know what brand it was in the event that I have to repurchase it. It's a system that's worked for a lot of other tyers. I see it really in play a lot for traveling fly tying kits. On a related note, I've seen a lot of gentlemen and women use a system kind of similar where they use, this is just a spool container in a sense, and instead of having these empty containers, they just, again, take the dubbing out of the packages and place them into all these empty spaces and then label accordingly on this top section. It's a system that a lot of people, again, they really like to use. It's just one that I haven't been comfortable with. The next one that I want to mention, I've seen a lot of guys that on the wall behind their fly tying desk, they have a pegboard, and they have pegs coming out of it, and on those pegs they simply just place all the dubbing packs. That's a really neat system if you have room for a pegboard, or if you believe you'll have, I guess, enough pegs or a large enough area that you can place the variety of dubbing that you might have. I've never really felt a need to utilize that style of method. I don't believe I'm going to go to it because whenever I see a pegboard, I kind of think of a department store, and that's just not the vibe I want to get from my fly tying room. But there's a tyer, his name's Jim, that I know he uses that system. He really likes it. It's easy for him to find all those materials and to just quickly pull them because they're directly in front of him whenever he's tying. Well, with all of those systems that I've mentioned in play, I want to mention the system that I use. It's a really easy system, and I know a lot of other tires out there that use it because it works for them, and that's the Ziploc baggie system. For starters, you grab a gallon Ziploc baggie. Now, I have some brand new gallon bags. I was going to repack everything into a brand new bag, but I figured somebody out there would call me out. So I left it in my old baggie. But for starters, the one that I really recommend is a heavy duty freezer style Ziploc gallon baggie. So we have that Ziploc bag. And then inside of it, I place all of my various dubbings. Now for starters, this is just going to be my nymph dubbing. So we're not talking about a dry fly system whatsoever. I'm just narrowing it down to this. Now, once I had it narrowed down to, I wanted all of my dubbings in, we'll say nymph dubbings, in one or two of these gallon baggies, then I had to think through, how do I want them organized? By color, by type of dubbing. And that's a really great starting point. For my purposes, I decided that I wanted them organized based on the type, basically the brand of dubbing. Now, I'll go through this and show you exactly what I mean, but this was the system that really made the most sense to me. So I'll just go through the ones that I have in here. For starters, I have one baggie that's called Ice Dub. In this Ziploc bag, and now this is the sandwich size, I have a bunch of just individual packets full of ice dubbings. Now this is probably my, we'll say, most packed baggie right now, which tells me I may have to break this into two. And from this point, I can definitely just break it down into maybe light shades of Ice Dub and dark shades of Ice Dub. That way I'll be able to basically identify it still. I'll know that it's ice dubbing, and I'll be able to just look at that packaging and say, hey, that's the lights, these are the darks, based on what I'm tying that day. Another one, this is one of my favorite ones, and it's the SLF spiky dubbing. I turn to this all the time. I've used this stuff in a lot of my videos. This is just one of my favorite dubbings out there right now. But you can see I have a ton of them. It's nice to see that they're all in one package. If I'm going to a fly tying show, I can pull them out quickly, just look through them, make sure they're all over halfway full, look at all the colors on the back, and really ensure that there's not another color that I need. The next one that I have that I've been using a lot more recently in the last few years is just natural dubbing. A lot of these are hare's ears. You can see an awesome possum on the front, but these are basically dubbings with very little synthetic mixed in. There might be a slight amount of antron mixed in, but for the most part, if I pull a clump out of these dubbings, it's going to look just like all natural fur. Next, I have a baggie that I've labeled antron. And by the way, I'm not sure if these labels are showing up. I label them just with a Sharpie marker so I know exactly what's inside that bag. This antron bag relates to another one, and it's my synthetic bag. In this one, I put more poly materials, whereas this one is more of the dubbings that have been blended with antron, either those that I've dubbed myself or blended myself, or those that I've purchased. You can see the word antron just sticking out of this baggie right here. I can tell you that over the last few years, I've been really, tying with a lot more of those mixed with antron versus those mixed with poly. I have a ton of packets in this one, but I have not used these ones on a regular basis, and I've kind of doubled up on a lot of colors. Thus, if I have an opportunity this spring, I plan on having another Project Healing Waters donation. I'm probably going to be donating some of these packets to future tires because they're just not packets that I've been really utilizing on an everyday basis. Let me see if I think I have a couple more left, and I do. I have one that's just considered an other category. Mainly this is Angora goat and the substitute. You can see there's not a lot in this right now, and that's because I'm currently tying with this with some of my patterns. Which, by the way, I won't lie, if you notice all these sandwich Ziploc baggies look brand new, it's because they are. I wanted to relabel everything and just use newer baggies because there were some holes that were developing in my older ones, and I didn't want you to call me out so much. All right, and finally, the last package that I have, I'd label this one the Quick Descent, otherwise known as dubbings that have weight in them. I like these for a lot of steelhead patterns, for some other nymphs that I fish during really heavy water and high water situations, but basically anything that has weight added to the dubbing, it comes in this pack. So you can see I have around half a dozen packages that I place within my gallon Ziploc bag. Really easy to access. I can just pull them out and then keep that baggie on my fly tying desk as I'm going through maybe different colors of a hare's ear or some other type of stonefly nymph. So that's the system that I've used over the years. The last piece that I want to mention, it's probably the most important piece. I was recently married in the last couple years, and when my wife moved into the house that I've been living in for the last decade, and she immediately said, Tim, we have to do something about that mothball smell in your fly tying room. And I admit it absolutely smells like my grandparents' closet. So there's a couple options out there. I've always used mothballs in the past just because I know that I put a lot of time and a lot of money into all of my fly tying materials, and I don't want them ruined, just period. My wife completely understood that. She just didn't like the smell. I know a lot of fly tyers have used, I believe, cedar chests, then they've inserted cedar into their packages, and they haven't had too many problems from what I can tell, but I'm just an overly cautious person. I didn't want to take that risk. My wife, however, really wanted me to try something else. Thus, she bought these mothball packets, and they have a lavender scent to them. Thus, they're really not as obtrusive as that original mothball scent that's out there. These are really nice, really easy to use. They come in these little packages. They're basically pre-packaged into packages of 2. And what I do is just tear them in half. So there's just one in this little kit, in this little package in a sense, and I just drop it into each of my Ziploc baggies that I'm using for all my fly tying materials. For my hackles, I put one in every single hackle. Again, I have a lot of money that I spend on hackle, and I just don't want anything to happen to those. So that's my system in regards to dubbing. You saw just my my nymph side of the dubbing. I pretty much use the same exact system for dry flies. I don't break it down by specific color. I really prefer to go with brand first, and then within those baggies of that brand, I have all the various colors. Well, with all that said, if you do have a system out there that you've been using over the years that you've had success with, or one that you haven't, please feel free to comment on that system and let others know about it. You can do so in the comments section of this video. Well, thanks as always for viewing this YouTube fly tying tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them directly on this YouTube page, or you can email me at tcammisa@gmail.com. If you're interested in watching any of my other fly tying tutorials, you can just check out my website, which is troutandfeather.com. I also have a Facebook page, and it's called Trout and Feather. You can like that and see some of the updates. For instance, I was out steelhead fishing this week and posted some pretty cool pictures that my buddy and I took of the great fish that we caught. Well, as always, thank you for all the positive comments and emails, and I hope all is going well. Thanks everybody for watching this YouTube fly tying tutorial.